Hello everyone, Michael Voris here to tell you the download is back. I'll be on regularly with Christine Niles and Simon Rafe and a fourth special guest host from the CM crew. We're going to have in-depth discussions on the big news of the day and, of course, indispensable analysis from a Catholic perspective. So don't miss the download premiering on YouTube at 5 p.m. Eastern every weekday. God love you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. What is radical Catholic ideology? The question dominated the U.S. House of Representatives Judiciary Committee hearings this month.
What is radical Catholic ideology? Why were we looking into that? What's that about?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, the FBI thug trying to avoid perjuring himself since he was under oath just sidestepped the entire matter.
I'm not able to speak to specifics of the actual product. I think that's what the internal review that I referenced earlier is getting.
Doesn't that concern you?
Certainly, I agree with the director's statements that the product was inexcusable.
Yeah. When Senator Josh Hawley ripped U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland a new one a few weeks ago about the FBI investigating faithful Catholics because the Justice Department believes we are domestic extremists and pose a terror threat, Garland pretended he was embarrassed and confused and couldn't begin to understand how all of this could happen. The thing that he couldn't understand that was happening was that the FBI dossier that Church Militant was specifically named in on page 4 is center stage again. 2 weeks ago, it was the turn of the United States House to go after this anti-Catholic rot deeply embedded in the FBI. And it is that rot, that belief that faithful Mass-going Catholics are some kind of threat to the country. The how did this become a narrative within the Federal Bureau of Investigation? That is the $64,000 question.
What would ever lead anybody to think that they could start investigating that? Now, I'm not as good as I should be. I miss Mass sometimes, but mostly Mass is a very peaceful thing where people go and pray and get Holy Communion. What are we investigating? How did that ever get through at all to even get started? Why did it have to be condemned when it never should have happened?
Yep, never should have happened. Of course, the answer was more deflection and, well, we're investigating it. I can't speak to that, and the results are not yet conclusive. Blah, 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 blah. This is a serious question. One Church Militant asked on the Vortex a few weeks ago when news of the leaked dossier started making the rounds. How did this happen? Some person or persons sat in that Richmond field office and felt sufficiently secure in their work to employ disallowed sources, which included leftist press reports, spend a good deal of time drawing together wild hypotheses to arrive at an even wilder hypothesis, and did all of this presumably under the supervision of their boss. It must have gotten enough approval and enough green lights to have been circulated, or as the national office statement admits, disseminated only within the FBI. That's troubling. This document, essentially labeling faithful Catholics as what amounts to potential terror threats, didn't stay within the confines of that Richmond office, but it got injected into the lifeblood of the FBI across the nation. What person or persons produced that report? Who assigned them the duty? What analysis and review was conducted after it was produced? Who gave the permission for it to be released and circulated throughout the whole agency? Once it was out in the system, how come no one else raised a red flag and said, hey, what's this? Yeah, what is this? Church Militant was asking these questions as a shawl even before Congress was, which of course we should, since we were specifically named in that report. That Vortex, as you saw, was February 15th. Press reports about the leak started circulating about a week earlier. The leak itself occurred a month before that. So if the FBI is so embarrassed and disavowing of their dossier, why has it taken them so long to get to the bottom of it? Do they still not know who, as in what agent, put this together? Really? 3 months later, they don't know who did it? They can kick down the doors of pro-lifers with almost no notice. They can raid a former president's private residence, pretending they finally found the smoking gun within minutes. But within their own agency, own office, They can't figure out who researched, prepared, and authorized a report violating the First Amendment rights of faithful Catholics. What did come out of the hearings so far is this. Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan assailed the FBI. He said to them that, quote, based on the limited, notice this word, limited information produced by the FBI to the committee, we now know that the FBI relied on at least one undercover agent to produce its analysis, and that the FBI proposed that its agents engage in outreach to Catholic parishes to develop sources, that's a spy network, among the clergy and church leadership to inform on Americans practicing their faith. Can anybody say communism in Russia in 1925? Did you get that? The chairman of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee caught the FBI red-handed spying on Catholics after they denied they'd done that, using at least one undercover agent, probably more, and trying to develop a network of spies across the country to infiltrate Catholic parishes. You still think Church Militant reported warnings about the hatred Joe Biden's administration has for Catholics is off base? Well, don't take our word for it. The Judiciary Committee just told you. It's clear there is much more going on here than just some goofy thinking that Catholics are violent, domestic, terrorist extremists, whatever all that is. There's an actual cover-up going on about what is really occurring in the Biden administration regarding faithful Catholics. That's why Joe Biden's FBI, call it what it is, it's his FBI, is dragging its feet, disclosing the most easily discoverable information about the dossier's origins. That's why they handed over a heavily redacted report of their initial investigation. So much so that Chairman Jordan said it was essentially useless. The investigation is not an investigation. It's a whitewash, part of a larger cover-up. A cover-up of what exactly is the big question, but there is something, likely big, being covered up here. The smart money is on the possibility that some of the U.S. bishops helped the FBI on this, and that is what's being covered up. That administration is led and directed by communists. Communism is the sworn enemy of the Catholic Church, so none of this is exactly surprising, at least in principle. What is surprising is just how brazen they are about it. The only radical ideology here is that of Joe Biden and his anti-Catholicism. Guess that's what happens to you when you receive sacrilegious Holy Communion hundreds, if not thousands of times. And bishops, you have allowed every bit of this to happen. At the least, you have allowed it. Perhaps some of you were involved in it. Rest assured that whatever eternal fate befalls Joe Biden, yours, bishops, will be far worse. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.